From Tiger Woods' record breaker in 2000 to Arnold Palmer's crazy win at Cherry Hills, here's a list of the most memorable US Open moments of all time. Let's start off with Ben Hogan at Merion. Remember him? The golfer who had had a really bad accident in February 1949. Well, just a few months later, he made an unbelievable comeback in the US Open in Merion. Despite his weakened legs that could barely hold him up, this guy managed to play 36 grueling holes on the final day. Can you imagine that? Now, here's where it gets even more amazing. On the 72nd hole, on a super tough course, he hit a remarkable shot with his 1-iron, and with just 2 putts, secured a spot in a playoff against 2 other players. Keep in mind the course was so challenging that a score of 7 over par 287 was leading the way. Impressive, right? But wait, there's more. The next day, Hogan goes out and shoots a fantastic score of 69, leaving his opponents Lloyd Mangrum and George Fazio trailing behind by 4 and 6 shots respectively. He really went against all odds to finally win the US Open, but going against all odds was not something uncommon for these players. And Payne Stewart showed us that at Pinehurst in 1999, he found himself locked in an intense battle with Phil Mickelson. During the match, Mickelson's caddy, Jim Bones McKay, had a beeper ready and was nervously waiting for any buzz that would mean Mickelson's first child was about to be born. That meant Mickelson might have to suddenly leave the course to be there for the birth of his child. And as if things weren't dramatic enough, it was Father's Day. So ultimately, everything came down to the 72nd hole. Stewart's drive wasn't the best, and after Mickelson just missed his 25-foot birdie attempt, the crowd started cheering on for Stewart. He needed to make an 18-foot putt to get a par and win. And of course, with a stroke of genius, he sent the ball home. The guy was so happy, he even playfully grabbed Mickelson's cheeks and wished him luck with the birth of his baby. Not to mention, Watson's way to victory was just as surprising. Back in the 60s, while playing at Pebble Beach, Watson would daydream about going head-to-head with the legendary Jack Nicklaus for the US Open Championship. Little did he know that his dream would come true in 1982. During the final round, Nicklaus made a super strong charge. Now, Watson was under a whole lot of pressure. The Golden Bear ended with a very good score of 4 under par, while Watson still needed 2 pars to tie the score. Then, at the 17th hole, a tough par 3 with 209 yards, Watson's 2-iron shot had a bit too much power, putting his ball into ankle-deep rough. It seemed like a tough position, but his caddy, Bruce Edwards, gave him some words of encouragement by saying, "Get it close." The linksman took his favorite sand wedge and skillfully slid it under the ball, and just like magic, the ball popped out and bounced twice on the green before rolling as easily as a putt, straight into the cup. That one amazing shot turned out to be the most important part of the competition. Males, you think? Sometimes even the craziest dream can come true. So, just like him, Pebble Beach turned out to be a victory ground for the infamous Tiger Woods guys. There's a reason why people think of him as one of the best players ever. Back in 2000, this pro golfer won 3 times, and was at the top of his game when he shot a total of 272 that was 12 strokes under par and won by a huge 15 strokes. Whoa! So just like him, Pebble Beach turned out to be a victory ground for the infamous Tiger Woods guys. There's a reason why people think of him as one of the best players ever. Back in 2000, this pro golfer won 3 times and was at the top of his game when he shot a total of 272 that was 12 strokes under par and won by a huge 15 strokes. Whoa! Woods also set US Open records for having the biggest lead after 36 holes and 54 holes. He was the first person to win the US Open by more than 10 strokes under par. And you know what's even cooler? He played the first 22 holes and the last 26 holes without making a single mistake. But he didn't stop there. He continued to dominate the US Open once again in 2008. When Tiger went deep to win at Torrey Pines, what the fans didn't know at the time, and what Woods only revealed after the tournament, was that he'd been having a lot of trouble with his left knee, and just 2 weeks before the US Open, he broke his left leg twice from stress. Fast forwarding to the final hole, he found himself in need of a challenging 12-foot putt to tie Rocco Mediate and force an 18-hole playoff. With all eyes on him, he took the shot. The playoff was nothing short of epic. Mediate had a 3-hole advantage with only 8 holes to play, but Woods, in true Tiger fashion, made a great comeback. So with a powerful drive, a high 4-iron shot, and an amazing 2-putt birdie, Woods forced a sudden death playoff. Then, in a dramatic turn of events, Mediate made a bogey, which ended the game on the 91st hole. Woods won the US Open for the third time in one of the greatest moments of his life. Oh, and speaking of great moments, we can't forget Arnold Palmer at Cherry Hills. This one was super intense. With almost a dozen talented players, including the famous Ben Hogan and the young 20-year-old amateur Jack Nicklaus, everyone was there to win. Arnold started the final round at Denver's Cherry Hills in 15th place, 7 shots behind Mike Suchak. But it looked like Palmer wasn't going to back down. He stepped up to the 346-yard par 4 first hole. He held his driver tightly and hit a strong shot that flew toward the green. And get this guy even made a birdie by putting twice. As he walked off the first tee, he felt a rush of energy and had a strong feeling that something special was about to happen. He then got birdies on 5 of the next 6 holes, giving him a great score of 30 for the first 9 holes. And as soon as his last putt went in, finishing a great round of 65, the crowd went wild. Much like how amateur Francis Ouimet went wild at the country club in 1913. The famous picture of Ouimet and his caddy, Eddie Lowry, who was only 10 years old, has been turned into logos and a movie for a pretty good reason. You'll see why. A 20-year-old amateur, Francis Ouimet, beat 2 of the best golfers in the world, Harry Vardon and Ted Ray, in an 18-hole playoff. For good measure, he birdied the 17th hole, which is across the street from where he grew up, in both the last round and the extra round. The US Open got a lot of attention because of the biggest surprise in the history of golf. So now, do you get why their union is still the most exciting story in the history of American golf? Oh well, moving on to our next most memorable moment, Johnny Miller shot final round 63 at Oakmont in 1973. He was 6 strokes behind the leader on one of the hardest courses in the game after a 76. And at that point, the crowd wasn't really expecting much from him. But that was, of course, until he made 4 birdies in the first hole of the final round. Miller went on another run, making birdies on 4 of the next 5 holes starting on the 9th. He then made a mistake on the 18th hole, giving him the first score of 63 in a major tournament. And it went on for an hour-long wait when the 26-year-old man from California found out that he just beat John Schley by a shot. In fact, recalling the whole tournament, Tom Weiskopf, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and Lee Trevino were also pretty close behind. You should also know men's majors have had 26 rounds of 63 since then, but Miller's is still the most amazing given how hard Oakmont is and what happened. This reminds us of the time when Bobby Jones faltered before winning playoff by 23 strokes in 1929. Now, as much as his US Open win at Interlaken was an important part of his 1930 Grand Slam, most of us can agree that it was his win at Winged Foot a year earlier that made him the most popular athlete in America. 3-stroke lead after 54 holes was gone after 2 triple bogeys and a bogey on the par 4 16th in the final round. After saving par from one of Winged Foot's deep greenside bunkers and making a 12-foot putt on numbered 18, he and Al Espinosa had to play a 36-hole playoff. Jones got himself back on track in a historic way, scoring 72, 69 to Espinosa's 84, 80. And believe it or not, this turned out to be the first of 5 great US Opens that took place at Winged Foot. Last but not least, let's talk about Irwin taking a victory lap at Medina in 1990. The 2-time winner was given a special exemption and was 4 strokes behind going into the final round. After shooting a 31 on the back 9, Irwin made a 45-foot birdie putt on the last hole. He then did his famous victory lap, during which he high-fived the crowd even though Mike Donald, who was tied for the lead after the 3rd round, still had holes to play. Donald, an absolute pro who fought hard to get into a playoff, lost to Irwin on the 91st hole the next day. Can you believe it? Oh well, that's all for today, guys. Which one of these moments did you find the best? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to hit that subscribe button and press the notification bell so you stay updated. Happy watching!